Hello everyone, welcome to week 5. Now I'm hoping that you're beginning to get a coalesced picture of what it looks like to teach ESL to adults. We're going to be getting into some really fun nitty-gritty of teaching listening and speaking and reading and writing, but first we're going to be looking at how to evaluate and select materials. There are a lot of materials out there. Let me take myself out of the picture. The first type of book I'm going to describe to you are the core texts. Then there are supplemental texts, integrated skills texts. There are skills-specific texts, content-specific texts, different kinds of dictionaries, and teacher resources. The core texts integrate all 4 language skills, and they have multiple levels. Some are designed for adult programs like Step Forward and Ventures and All-Star. Others are designed for the college level like Futures and Interchange and Passages. The elements of a core text are these. They have multiple levels, usually 5, some have 6. Remember those 6 levels of ESL we looked at the other day? So the core texts, there's usually a book for every level. They integrate all 4 language skills within contextualized, structured content units. And within each contextualized unit, they're practicing target vocabulary, grammar, they're developing their reading comprehension, they're developing their writing skills, and in real-life contexts, and there might be, it's all real-life application, and then there might be an extension activity that takes the learning outside of the classroom. The other thing about a core text is that it is standardized to CASAS and to Best Plus, those 2 standardized tests that we usually use to put students in level. And there are other content standards that are showing up in books now. The College and Career Readiness Skills, the CCRS, those are competency skills driving programs, not just ESL programs, but K-12 and higher education in the United States. And then there are also workplace competencies, and many of the books are standardized to those, SCANS and EFF, which stands for Equip for the Future. SCANS stands for the Secretary's Commission on Achieving Necessary Skills. Every core text will have a scope and sequence. It's a table of contents that shows you the context of the unit, and it shows you the types of activities and the language skills that students are going to be engaging in. Here we have the language functions, listening and speaking activities, vocabulary development, and the grammar focus for that unit. We can also see the reading activities, the writing activities, the life skills application, in this case reading in order form, and this book has pronunciation practice at the end of every unit. Core texts are also going to show you how the book is standardized to the CASAS and the Best Plus and to SCANS and EFF on the correlations. And you can always tell us the correlations because you'll see for CASAS it's always going to be this bizarre set of numbers. Best Plus is actually going to show you written out the competencies. I'm going to look at the CASAS competencies here, but these are all of the CASAS and Best competencies that are practiced in Unit 1 in Ventures Book 2. Remember, know the program levels and how the students are put into your level to know which book to put them in. Is it the CASAS, is it the Best Plus, or is it some in-house test? The competencies, you're not going to see these NRS functioning levels in the correlations, but remember that those functioning levels are based on the results of CASAS and Best Plus. I'm asking you to look at the CASAS competencies this week. You don't have to memorize them, and you certainly don't have to print this document, but I do want you to skim through it. I want you to read all of the content areas. This is a content area, basic communication, number 0. The next one is number 1, and then there's number 2. I think there are 5, maybe 6 content areas, so read the content areas and then read one competency within each content area. It is not the same thing as the CASAS skill level descriptors. The skill level descriptors tell us what a student can do at each level. The CASAS competencies tell us the language skills that any ESL learner at any level can start to practice. So for example, competency 0.1, communicate in interpersonal interactions. Point 3, understand or use appropriate language to influence or persuade, such as to caution, advise, persuade, or negotiate. Now, a level 1 student might learn to say, don't drink that coffee, it's hot. But an advanced student might learn to say, don't leave that machine running too long because it will overheat. It's the same competency, just different skill levels. Wait, Mario, there's even more. Core texts come with ancillaries, a teacher's guide, a class audio CD, a student book with an audio CD, a student workbook either in print or electronic form, also with a CD, multi-level practice worksheets, and this means that you've got a worksheet where they're practicing the same grammar, the same vocabulary, but you have a worksheet for students who are right at your level, and then the students in your class who are a little lower, they're struggling, and maybe the students who are a little higher, your fast finishers, you've got a harder worksheet for them. Once they finish their worksheet, they can then practice with anybody in the class, regardless of how well they're performing. And then a lot of these also have free or subscription-based online practice for students. The integrated skills or supplemental texts are standalones, but they are not meant to be your core text. Now, Side by Side and Oxford Picture Dictionary can be used as the basic text for an ESL program, but you have to create the curriculum around these books. It's not developed for you as it is with the core texts. These other books, they're just meant to augment what you're already using with really great activities. Grammar texts, most of these are developed for college level like at Front Range or even the intensive English program at the university level. This one, Grammar Pure and Simple, is developed for English language learners in an adult ed program. I think there are only 2, maybe 3 levels of that book. Skill-specific texts provide practice in one language skill. For example, it might be speaking with pronunciation or getting the rhythm and intonation with the jazz chants. It might be reading. It might be developing literacy from the ground up, learning how to write the letters and numbers in English. It might be developing listening comprehension, or it might be developing the phonemic awareness, understanding and identifying the individual sounds in English. Content-based texts are English for a specific purpose. A lot of these are for workplace English, but I will tell you the workplace is a job opportunity for you guys. There are a lot of companies that hire people to come in and provide English lessons to their non-native English speaking employees. And then there are also texts for people to learn to practice for citizenship and to learn about civics. Lots of really great dictionaries for English language learners, picture dictionaries, photo dictionaries, and very nicely designed study dictionaries, word dictionaries. The teacher resource books are, again, these are not core texts. These are augment your class. They provide wonderful activities, but they're not your core text. But then, how do you know what else comes with your textbook? Because do you need to augment with one of those supplemental texts? Well, read the introduction for the teacher in the book, or look on the back cover, or look for this book on the publisher's website. Now, this is the back cover of Ventures Book 2. Here's Book 2 here. Book 2 is for Level 3. It's the third in the series. It's for Level 3. It has a student book with an audio CD. It has a workbook with an audio CD or an electronic workbook. But keep in mind, if you use this, every student has to have his or her own subscription that is paid for. So either they are paying for it or you are paying for it. The program, I mean. free practice online for the students with Ventures Arcade, free teachers resource rooms with lots of lesson ideas and downloadable photocopyable worksheets, a teacher's guide with a CD-ROM, and then this particular product has a DVD version where you can project the textbook through the projector and then you can interact with it in class. How do you know what book to use? Remember to know how your learners are placed in level, or also read the introduction and check the teacher's guide. Now this is Step Forward, and I see that Step Forward has 5 book levels. So that takes care of the first basic 5 levels of adult ESL. If I have a level 6, which is that pre-GED level, I'm going to have to design something for that level. But at least I have levels 1 through 5 taken care of with Step Forward. But be careful. Don't rely solely on the publisher's stated levels. Just because it says it's book 1 doesn't mean it's really for beginners. You really have to take a good look at that book and check the readability. The other thing you need to ask yourself about this textbook is, does it align with what we know about adult learning theory? You're going to read Kathleen Pietro Waddell's independent study course this week called How to Choose a Good ESL Textbook. Kathy took the conditions of adult learning and weighed them against key criteria for selecting a textbook. And so you can look at this chart and get an idea. These are the kinds of questions you should be asking when you're evaluating a textbook. Think about the readability of the text. Think about its level appropriateness for your learners. Is it rich and comprehensible input? Is it heavy with text, or are there a lot of really good pictures and illustrations that students can talk about? Which language skills are developed? Do you need to supplement it? And if so, how much and with what? And what is the book's approach? And by this I mean, what does it assume the learners can do from day one? Does it assume they can read a paragraph or 2 of text? Or does it assume they can't do that and instead asks them to talk about a very rich content picture? Also ask yourself, find out, can any of that book be photocopied? Be very aware of photocopy laws. You can copy 10% of a book's content for educational purposes. That's not very much. Look for products that give you permission to photocopy, but you usually cannot photocopy a student book or a workbook. Here's the big reveal. Some of the core texts and popular titles for adult ESL are either published by Cambridge, Oxford, or Longman ELT. There are some other publishers out there, but these are the big top 3. What about technology? You should be applying the same critical thinking skills to an online application or an online English website that you give to the textbook. They're not all created equally. Your assignments this week are going to be read Chapter 8 and read the independent study course, How to Choose a Good ESL Textbook. I'm going to send each of you scans from a current book, and I want you to use the textbook evaluation in D2L and refer to page 11 from that independent study course so that you can evaluate that text. Use the evaluation form, answer all of the questions about it. If you are unsure is a fine answer. But fill out all of the answers and see if you can evaluate that text to determine its purpose. And then share your book in discussion topic, it says number 2. I'm sorry, that's not right. It's discussion topic number 1. There are 2 discussion topics this week. And there are some questions for you to answer about your textbook. And then go fetch. I want you to go find an online site or an application for learning and practicing English, and I want you to share that in discussion topic number 2 and tell us how you could use this application in a face-to-face class, not assigned as homework, but how could you use it in your class? With that, guys, I'm going to say go for it, and I'm going to leave you with a pica because, well, it's a pica. There's nothing cuter. Bye-bye.